Hi, I'm Dr. Audrey Anton. I'm Assistant Professor of Philosophy in the Department of Philosophy and Religion. And I'm here to talk about Philosophy 211, Why Are Bad People Bad? So when I took the class to the prison, which we did every week for the whole semester, the whole class was held in the prison, we did have some preparation. I had to have the students oriented. There are a lot of rules in prison, as you probably imagine. And so our students had to learn how to follow them just to be able to get through the doors. So the students met with me and Dr. King, Dr. Kate King, formerly of the criminology program. She's recently retired. And we tried to keep them comfortable, let them know about the procedure so that way they would know what they're doing as soon as they get in. And when we start, the first thing I have students do is to question the question, because that class is an enduring questions class. We received a grant from the National Endowment for Humanities, and for which we're very grateful. And that really helped us to formulate the class on a question-based model. So the first thing we do is we say, what does it mean to ask the question, why are bad people bad? Doesn't that presume that there are bad people? Perhaps there aren't. Maybe they're just people who do bad things. And the students have to answer this for themselves. Then I break it down into sub-questions. For example, we ask, why are bad people bad? But even if we do presume they're bad people, how'd they get that way? So we might say, are people bad by nature? Are people bad because of their experiences? Are people bad because of habits? Are people bad because they freely chose to do the wrong thing? And these are different units that the students study. And when I say the students, I mean both the WKU students and the incarcerated students, because they're reading the same material and they meet with us and we talk about the same material every week. One of the reasons why I love teaching this class is because at the very least half of the people in the room are really just there to be in the room. They get nothing out of it other than our intellectual exchange and our company. So the incarcerated students do not get credit right now. WKU does not grant them credit, but they are intellectually thirsty. They really want to have someone to talk to about these things, and they just jump at the opportunity to have that kind of conversation. Of course, we all have some privileges that many people in the prison won't understand, won't share. But the people that we have in the class are so understanding and they're very curious. So they want to know about the WKU students' lifestyle and their background and the way they think. And the WKU students are equally curious about, the kinds of backgrounds that the prisoners might have and their situation. Sometimes they will share with us. I never ask them to, though, because that is not their and that's their private business if they wanted to share that. But they often do because it's related to the course material and they're trying to work out how to have a good life. Every week was a success story. Every time I walked out of there, I was so glad I went. But there's one that stands out that I think is just a terrific story. One of our incarcerated students, he's actually incarcerated for murder, and his victim had an infant son. And his victim's son wanted to have a mediation, wanted to have a restorative justice conversation where he could actually approach the incarcerated student and ask him, why did you do this, that kind of thing. And he granted the interview because he's very remorseful. He wants very much, he says it's the least he could do for this young man. And he met with this young man for 3 hours. And our class was that day later on. So he asked if it would be okay if he shared the story with our class. And I said, absolutely. Whatever I've planned, we'll do it another time. This is a learning moment I could never duplicate. This is a learning moment you can't get from a book. So I said, if you want to share that, I think they would like very much to hear it. And he told us about his crime. And he told us about how nervous he was meeting his victim's son. And he told us about how the victim's son went from being very angry to being very calm and then to just speaking with him like a human being. And you could hear a pin drop in that room, both from the inside students and the outside students. I mean, everybody was glued to him while he was telling this story. And my favorite part was after he was done, he says, so do you guys have any questions? And nobody said anything for a minute because I think people were trying to digest it. And I think they were trying to be polite. But he looked at them, he says, no, really, you can ask me anything. And everybody, just the floodgates opened. Everybody had a million questions. The outside students, the WKU students, they asked a lot of questions and he answered all of their questions graciously. And that was something I couldn't have planned. It was just wonderful. So that was a time when we were talking about why one person did something bad, and he was there, and he's telling us both why he did it and why he knows it's wrong now and he wished he hadn't. While it is a men's maximum security prison, it's very safe. My students feel very safe. I feel very safe. These particular individuals, I have to say, are just wonderful. Philosophy 211, Why Are Bad People Bad, was just recently accepted into the Call and Aid program in the explorations category. So students should know that, because not only is this a great opportunity to take a class, I'm biased, but I think it's a wonderful class, but in addition, you can actually make progress towards your degree. So before I taught at DeBary Prison, Dr. Kate King invited me to join her think tank, which is at DeBary Prison, and most of the members of the think tank are incarcerated persons. And they're the same people that have the privileges to take courses. So I actually met several of my students, my incarcerated students, the semester before I taught there, which helped me to feel really comfortable. And I was asking them, what kinds of courses would you like to see here? And they asked me, of course, what do you teach? What can we have? And when I was going through my course descriptions, I was a little reluctant when I said, I teach, ancient philosophy, metaphysics, and why are bad people bad? And they stopped me and they said, wait, what was that? And it was interesting because these particular individuals really didn't mind that, it was the kind of thing that they probably have to think about all the time, because they want to think about it. It matters to them, because that's really what the think tank is all about. The think tank is supposed to be for incarcerated people and allies of incarcerated people that want to make a positive difference while these people are incarcerated. So Philosophy 323, Social Ethics, is going to be taught at Lois DeBary Prison in the spring of 2016. I'm taking interest now. In that course, we are going to examine perspectives that you find in a society like ours that is diverse both philosophically and religiously. So a lot of the issues we're going to talk about have to do with social justice, political issues, issues like rights, responsibilities, issues in current events, things like the Kim Davis example that we have in Kentucky. We'll also be studying some traditional philosophical problems such as abortion and euthanasia. So it's a case-based philosophy class. We're going to look at the really controversial issues that just doesn't seem like we can come to a consensus about how we ought to be dealing with them. And then we're going to try to fix those. So it's going to be a challenge, but I think my students are up for it, both my WKU students and my incarcerated students. And if you're interested in this prison philosophy initiative, a group of my students, they call themselves Students Teaching Students, they teach philosophy to pre-college age students. And one of the audiences that they go to teach philosophy is the Juvenile Detention Center in Bowling Green, which is just down the street. It's a very easy walk. They walk to do that. But they'll learn philosophy in classes like the class I just told you about, and like Why Are Bad People Bad? And then they'll actually practice those lessons and deliver them to 12 and 13-year-olds who are in the Juvenile Detention Center. And that group is open for new membership. Anybody wants to join. You don't even have to be a philosophy major. And they're very powerful. One of the things we like to say is that a lot of times when people are teenagers, they have more and more responsibilities, and all the rights that you would think would come with those responsibilities tend to come later. And so it can be very frustrating being a teenager, having more and more responsibilities that you have to take care of and not a whole lot more fun time and liberty. And we think that might be part of the frustration that makes teenagers act out and get in the wrong kinds of situations that end them up in juvenile detention. And so philosophy is an intellectual way to be subversive. We encourage them to question things intellectually, to challenge things intellectually instead of physically or in other inappropriate ways.